Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be going over how to interpret a box plot. So in this box plot we don't really have a specific scenario, it's just representing some data set, and we're going to use this box plot to answer the questions. So the first question asks, what is the minimum value of the data? So this leads us to focusing in on one part of the box plot, which is often called the whisker, if you've ever heard it, a box and whisker plot. These are the two branches on the left and right side of the box plot. Those branches always start and end at the minimum and the maximum of the data set. So I can look at where the far left branch extends to find the minimum. So this far left branch ends at the minimum. So now I just need to figure out what value we have here on this tick mark. So we do need to figure out what it's counting by here. So my number line is from here, I have from 0 to 20, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 5 sections from 0 to 20. So that means it's counting by 4s. If you're not sure how I got that, basically if I know that there's 5 ticks to get to 20, I can divide 20 by 5, which would give me 4. So I know it's counting by 4. So why don't I go ahead and pause and just label all the way, because we're going to want to be able to reference this as we answer the other question. So it's counting by 4. Not necessarily all of them will be counting by 4. You're going to have to sometimes figure out what it's counting by. Okay. And you don't have to label it all at the beginning, but I just thought that might help us. So the minimum value of the data then, since it's stretching all the way to the 4, is 4. So the minimum is 4 because that's where the farthest left branch extends to. What is the maximum value of the data? Similarly, I'm going to go look at the right branch and see where that extends to. And it's lined up right at 80. So the maximum value of the data is 80. The lowest value is 4, highest value is 80. That's the minimum and maximum. What is the range of the data? So we've already learned about range when we looked at dot plots and histograms. The range is the maximum minus the minimum, and we already know the maximum is 80 minus the minimum, which is 4. If you need a calculator, you can use it, but 80 minus 4 gives me 76. So my range is 76. The next question says, what is the interquartile range, IQR, of the data? So the interquartile range is this box part of the box plot. I'm trying to figure out how much of the values are in this box, or what the range, where it starts and ends, what that range is. So now I'm going to need to, I know with the range we do max minus min, but with the IQR, it's not going to be called the max and min. It is going to be called the quartile 3 and quartile 1. So the reason it's called that is because each part of the box plot represents a quarter of the data. That's because, as you can see, the box plot is split into 4 sections. So think 4 quarter. So quartile 1 is the first quarter of the data. So that's quartile 1. And then quartile 3 is when we get to the third quarter of the data. So that's why it's called quartile 1 and quartile 3. So to get the interquartile range, we do Q3, so quartile 3 minus Q1, quartile 1. So we need to figure out what the value is for the quartile 3 and what the value is for quartile 1. So for quartile 3, I'm going to go down and see what it's lining up with. It's lining up with 56 minus the value of the quartile 1 is 24. So 56 minus 24, you can use a calculator if you need it, but it should give you 32. Okay. So once again, that box part is the interquartile range, and then the entire box plot would be the entire range when I'm doing max minus min. So that's the difference between the two. The next few questions are asking us about what percentage of the data is between or above or below certain numbers. So let's talk about the box plot again. As we already said, it's split into 4 parts. It's basically splitting our data equally into 4 parts. And when you think about a whole being split into 4 parts, so if I have like a whole circle and I split it into 4, like a pizza split into 4s, we can write this as fractions, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 to make a whole, or we can also write it as a percentage. So think about dividing 100% into 4 parts. That would be 25% in each part. So 25% in 1/4, 25% in another quarter, 25% in the third quarter. So they all are split into 25% equally. So if I look at a box plot, the whole box plot represents 100%, but each section of the box plot is 25%. So this left branch is 25% of the data. This 1/2 of the box is 25% of the data. We didn't mention this because it didn't ask for it, but this middle line here is the median because it splits the data in half. Okay, so if we were to be asked the median, it would be 40. Anyway, as we keep going, the right half of the box is 25% as well, and then the right branch is also 25%. So it says what percentage of data is between 24 and 56? So between 24 and 56, well, 24 is our Q1 and 56 is our Q3. So it's basically saying what percentage of the data is in this. Maybe I'll use a highlighter for this. It's basically saying what percentage of data is in the box. And we know there's 25% in the left half of the box and 25% in the right half of the box. So that's a total of 50% of the data. So half the data is in that interquartile range section in the box section from 24 to 56. The next question says, what percentage of data is above 40? So if I look for 40, 40 is my median line in the middle, and it says above 40. So we want everything to the right of 40. So I have 25% in the right half of the box, and then I have another 25% in that right branch. So that means it is a total of 50% also. So half the data is above the median. That makes sense. The median is 40. That splits the data in half. So that means 50% of the data is above 40, and then 50% of the data would also be below 40. The next question says, what percentage of data is below 24? So for that, 24 is quartile 1, below 24. That's just talking about this left branch, which is 25%. So it's just 25%. And then what percentage of data is between 40 and 80? So 40, that's our median, and then 80 is the max. So it's saying from 40 to 80. That's actually almost the same kind of question we already answered when it said what percentage of data is above 40, but it's just asked a little differently. So since it's that top half of the data, it's also 50%. So that is pretty much everything you need to know about box plots. You've got the minimum on the far left branch, the maximum on the far right branch. The median is the line in the middle of the box, and the quartile 1 and quartile 3 are the left and right lines that create that box, okay? And then each section of the box plot represents 25% of the data. It splits the data into 4 equal parts.